So, in one word, what is your mood after these three preseason games, Seth?
It was hard to figure this one out, so I consulted the internet. My eyes landed on the H moods. Hyper, that's my natural state. That one doesn't work. Hungry, ditto for the hyper thing. High, it's like these guys have been reading my diary. Hopeful. I'm gonna stick on hopeful because I wanted to say cautiously optimistic or something like that, but that's two words. Hopeful would be the word in that I think there are more high impact potentially players on this roster than there have been before. I think the level of athleticism is better, and I like a lot of these rookies more so than I thought I would going into training camp. So hopeful.
I'm going to go optimistic because I don't think I said that all of last year. A lot of times, when you're selecting a head coach, you're selecting a starting quarterback or running back, whatever, it comes down to, well, he wasn't our first choice. But I tell you, however they arrived on Lovie Smith, I've said it since day one, the guy has a calming influence on everyone at NRG Stadium. I'm on Team Lovie, man. I'm on Team Lovie. And if the path to success is to have a guy who can calm everything down as opposed to Camp Chaos a year ago, man, Lovie Smith is the guy. And I like what he says. I think he's pretty doggone transparent about how he talks about his personnel. And I just like what I see. And like Seth says, there are more potential impact players on this team than there were a year ago also. So I'm optimistic.
Camp Chaos. That seems like it should be on a t-shirt somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to say reserved because while I think you can be hopeful and optimistic, it is preseason. We didn't see all the guys. So I'm simply going to say reserved. Like, I feel pretty good. I certainly feel good for the organization because it's probably building some excitement that the season is here and you start out 3-0, but 17 games is a long haul. So I'm saying reserved. Daniel?
For me, it's not a mood or a feeling. I liked your feelings, but for me, it's going to be upside because I think for the first time, and look, upside's kind of a cliche phrase in sports, but upside doesn't usually just automatically translate to wins. It translates maybe a year or two down the road to wins. And I do think that this team has now players with substantial upside. You've seen the rookies, the rookie class is pretty promising. Nico Collins has developed into some more upside with him. So Davis Mills, we don't know what he's going to have too, but I think there is upside. And when you're building a team, a franchise, basically from the ground up, you need guys with upside. So that's the word I'm sticking with.
And when you look at this entire body of work during the preseason, give me a player you did not expect to make the team at the start who should now make the team. Seth?
Since I'm going first, I think there's going to be a unanimous answer on this one. So I'm going to give you my second place one, and I'll allow my esteemed elders to be able to name the consensus guy. I'll say I wasn't sure if this guy would make the team. He probably would because he's a 6th round pick. But Austin Deculus is a guy who's impressed me more than I expected to be impressed. And I think that because he's a draft pick and because of the numbers, he was most likely going to make the team unless he really stunk it up. But there's more substance to him. I think there's more natural strength and athleticism to Austin Deculus than I thought there was when the Texans drafted him. And I think he's got a lot of upside as a potential swing tackle, maybe a guy who works his way into a starting role. But I like Austin Deculus out of LSU a lot.
Well, I'm going to leave the name that you're thinking about, I believe, to someone else because I'm not going to go for that.
Oh, this is suspense is building.
Yeah, we're just going to kick the can down the road. What are you doing here?
Okay, Kurt Heinrich. I'm going to give that to somebody else. But the guy and this is, I think he'll make the squad. And also, you know how emotional I get. I'm pulling for this guy. He's a Marine. Ex-Marine, you're never an ex-Marine. Paul Quisenberry. We love the Quisenberry family, right? I mean, we fell in love with David, everything he went through, and he battles his way back, and he's in the NFL. Scott has made the team for sure. He's played a lot, but Justin Britt out at center. Scott's played a lot at the center position. But I didn't think when camp started that I'd be saying this. Paul Quisenberry, they've already cut one fullback. If you're going to run the football, you need to have a decent fullback, and Paul has has done well when he's had an opportunity in games and in practice. So I'm going to say Paul Quisenberry. Jace?
I was going to say, well, Daniel, why don't you go?
Oh man, the suspense. Look, my one word was upside, right? And my player is Blake Cashman because the Texans signed him with the upside potential, right? I mean, this is a guy who was drafted by the Jets. He's gone through a lot of injuries, right? And he keeps betting on himself. And the Texans bet on that talent, and he's really shown something during the preseason. He's played and with some of the ones, some of the twos, they mixed them in. He's made some plays. Blake Cashman is a guy that I think sticks around.
So, Seth, what have you seen from Kurt Hinish?
Okay, so Kurt Hinish, the defensive tackle out of Notre Dame, who is my pet favorite in this year's training camp, is a guy who I thought was probably going to maybe be hidden on the practice squad. I think, and this is the key word, he's flashed enough. And we've heard Lovie Smith use that word. In this defense especially, you want defensive linemen who flash behind the line of scrimmage. And Kurt Hinish plays above his combine numbers. I think he's got a lot of natural strength and leverage and just a certain violence to his play that translates well to the NFL. And he's flashed a lot. So I think they probably hoped to maybe cut him and then bring him back on practice squad, but he's played well enough in the preseason games that I don't think they can risk that maneuver, and he probably makes the active roster right off the bat.
Having said that, how many rookies will start for the Texans in week 1?
I'm going to go on, I'm guessing the over-under on this would be 3. I'm going to say 2, and I think they'll both be on defense. I think Jalen Petrie and Derek Stingley start in the defensive backfield. I think that Dameon Pierce might get the most carries, but there are enough veteran running backs on this roster that I think they'll hold off and they'll try to work him in slowly because Dameon Pierce is an excitable guy. And I think maybe get him involved in special teams a little bit and then bring him in after he's calmed down a little bit before the first series. And I also think Kenyon Green, even though he looked good in the preseason game, this last preseason game, I think he needs a little seasoning. I think he'll get some snaps, but I don't think he's going to start the game.
I think that's a conservative number. After what Lovie said on Friday, I asked him specifically about playing rookies ahead of veterans. If he hesitated, like some head coaches, he said, okay, I like veterans over rookies, and I'll like these rookies more when they are veterans, but it comes down to who can get the job done, who has the talent, and if they can get the job done, I will not hesitate to play them. So with that in mind, I'll say at least 3, the 2 you named, and then Dameon Pierce. If he doesn't start at running back, Kenyon Green, I think, should start at left guard. Look, Kenyon, we were talking after the game, it looked like he was at Atascocita High School or Texas A&M. He would take on a defensive tackle, and then get to that next level. He was a road grader. Man, it seemed so easy. Now, again, it's preseason. And I thought at the end of that game, his last few series, I thought he looked a little tired. So, yes, that's an issue. But it was 2 weeks before the starting game. But I'd say at least 3. Man, would it be 4 rookies starting? I think that would be a good way to go myself.
Well, if this was Bill O'Brien, all these guys would be on the practice squad because he didn't care about rookies playing. No, I think the number's 3. And because Lovie Smith is in charge, I think he will start Dameon Pierce. Obviously, Stingley, Petrie, those guys are pretty much locked in. But I just think he's too much of an electric player, and he's shown so much flash that Lovie can't not start him, right? Because he does give them the best chance with a productive running game. I get it. It's preseason, but the way he cuts, the way he moves, the way he violently runs, that's something this team has not had really for the last couple of years. I think he will start Pierce, and he should because he's a fun player to watch, and he will help Davis Mills out for sure. So
this is where this is a little bit of a technicality I'm writing here, which is that who starts the game doesn't really have necessarily a lot to do with who plays the most in a game. So that's where I think that Dameon Pierce ends up getting the most snaps at running back, but that they work him in slowly. And they're going to, especially if blitz pickup or whatever is a concern, I think they want to be sure they get that out of the way. Ultimately, it becomes a technicality, and Dameon Pierce gets the most carries in week 1.
I'm at 3 as well, but Seth, with Dameon Pierce, the way he came out against the Niners in that last preseason game, don't you want that kind of output right off the bat if you're the Texans?
Yeah. If you're the Texans, or well, if you're Seth Payne, that's what you want right out of the bat. But you also don't want Davis Mills getting sacked because there's either a mental error or a blitz pickup issue or what have you. And some of the other veteran running backs have just seen more of that. And everything gets a lot more complex in week one. A lot of things these guys have seen in the preseason. It goes from kind of playing with Nerf guns to like being a live fire drill. It's a different deal. So I think that as the Texans look at it, and as maybe Pep Hamilton looks at it, I think they really, really like Dameon Pierce. But just as far as week one goes, sometimes it's best to take it easy and work guys in slowly because it's a 17-game season.
I will say I feel a lot better about the running back position after seeing Marlon Mack in that final preseason game. I thought he looked better. He looked better in the first two games. He was making the cuts that I thought he had missed maybe hitting the holes prior to that 49ers game. So I do feel better about that, aside from Pierce, that Marlon Mack looked better.
I'm just excited that we're talking about young talent on the Texans football team. We're looking forward to seeing that on the field.
Yeah. Kenyon Green had some really, really good plays in the run game. Pass protection was an issue at times, and those same guys that he was having great plays against in the run game are guys who likely aren't going to be in the NFL next week. So when those same guys are also beating him in pass rush, that's where I think he showed a lot of promise. I think he just needs more reps, and that's why I'm waiting on him for a guy who's at least week 2 or week 3 after he's seen some live NFL action.
He is Seth Payne. You can listen to him mornings on Sports Radio 610. And Seth, we'll be seeing you next week.
I'm hopeful.
I'm optimistic about it.
I'm not reserved. I'm hopeful and optimistic.
All right. Thanks, guys.